Highway to hell. Highway to hell. Highway to hell. If you haven't already noticed by now, I'm a big fan of AC/DC, and if this isn't your first time seeing one of my videos, then you'll know I like to build things with LEDs. For example, my drum kit, my desk, my ceiling, my bed, even my dog. If this is your first time on my channel, then welcome. I came across a piece of code that works similar to the Shazam app you probably have on your phone for recognizing music, and when building my home studio, I thought it'd be a good chance to mix this with my love for LEDs so that my lighting would have the same taste in music as me. That is, whenever it hears AC/DC, the lights will turn on. So stick around if you want to see the final result and how I did it. Also, just to note, there's no actual AC/DC music in the video. Well, no original versions anyway, to avoid copyright issues. You'll see what I mean. And for anyone wondering, yes, this is how I like to spend my free time. I started by buying some metal sheet, making sure it sounds just as good as heavy metal music. Then I marked out the shape based off the length of a scaled up lightning bolt image I found on one of the album covers. Then it was simply a case of cutting. I thought it would be appropriate to use my own musical equipment as my workbench, and totally not because I don't have a workbench. However, this did pose some problems from my young, over-enthusiastic roommate. Then using this new toy that almost took my hand off, I was able to get some finer detail and cleaner edges. And finally, the shape is there. It's worth noting that I did want to do this with brass to get a shiny gold look and to get some weight to the unit, but where I live, that'd cost about as much as a decent guitar. The LEDs won't do much just stuck on the back, so to get the maximum light coverage, I've cut and bent these aluminium channels to the same shape, but about a ½ inch smaller for each side, so only the glow of the LEDs is visible and not the direct bulb. Which, in my opinion, is the biggest mistake of using LEDs. Use the glow, not the bulb. Always. The channels also feature a plastic piece that slides in to act as diffusion for the LEDs, which will also hold the strip tight to the edges. I avoided using screws or rivets to mount these channels, so the face of the sheet metal is undisturbed. There's probably better ways to do this, but hot glue is good enough for me. For the LEDs themselves, I'll use my favourite LED strip type, which I've linked below, as well as all the other materials I used for the build. It'll be controlled by a Raspberry Pi because that's what will be running the audio software, and also that's what I'm best used to working with LEDs. If you want to see how all that works and how it's controlled, be sure to check out my other videos with LEDs. The final touch of the build is some colour. It has to be gold because in my opinion that's the best looking lightning bolt. As you can see, the containment box has been pre-tested on another piece of metal, and I can confirm it managed to withstand the brutal battery of the spray can. And that's pretty much it. However, it won't do much good just sitting there. Well, it looks nice, but it just needs one more thing to bring it to life. So to get the light to actually respond to what's being played, we're going to need some form of audio recognition. This is where that piece of code I mentioned earlier comes into play. I should clarify it's not mine, I found a link to it somewhere. So here we have the repo on GitHub. To give you a quick demonstration of what it can do, I can simply copy the code, cloning the repo. To keep things clean with Python libraries, we can just create a virtual environment. Then we can cd into our code if we want to install the dependencies. Pip install requirements txt. Then we can run the setup commands as listed in the repo. Run the test to make sure all the dependencies are there. Now here I actually have my own branch which is just modified to work with Python 3, which is what I'm running on my laptop. And now the way this is set up is you can train the model to listen for specific songs that you tell it to. Unlike Shazam, which would have access to a huge database of millions of songs, for this one we need to copy in our own MP3s and then analyze each song to get an audio fingerprint. So here I have a folder ready with some that are acoustically different, let's say. So now I'll just copy that folder into a folder named mp3, which is it's expecting. And now we can run this command, which will analyze the songs. So what this is actually doing is using maths, in particular Fourier transform, which I studied in college and already can't remember most of the stuff about it. But I know that it analyzes waves and generates a form of hash or unique signature for each wave, which once our microphone starts listening, it can analyze what it's hearing with the same Fourier transform and then compare in numbers with what's stored in the database. So now we have our 3 songs analyzed. We can then use this command to listen out for 5 seconds. And as you can see here, it'll print out the signal level that it's getting. So it's actually reported here that it thinks the sound it's heard is this MP3 which we've scanned in. Obviously it wasn't, I wasn't playing the music. However, we're also giving this confidence value at the end, 34 out of 100. From what I found, it's almost always trying to find a match also, so it'll return whatever the closest one is. So now if I actually play one and listen out, we can see if it can get it and what the confidence value will turn out to be. Well, it got the right song, but in true demo fashion, I am proved wrong by the code and the confidence value is half of what it was before. Maybe I've mixed it up and it's closer to 0 is better. I don't know, but it got the right song and that's the main thing. To translate this to our light unit, I just have to generate fingerprints for all of AC/DC's music. Lucky enough I have the whole album collection to work with. And then I can link this code to code that I have myself to control the LEDs. So whenever an AC/DC song is recognized with a high enough confidence value, it'll trigger the LEDs. Simple. Well, let's see. Little did Stephen know it would be anything but simple. It's a few days after I recorded the last part. I was supposed to do it all in one, but I couldn't get the code working properly to both listen to the music and trigger the LEDs at the same time. See, when I initially had the idea, I wrote and tested the code before building anything as like a proof of concept to make sure it worked. There was a lot of dependency issues, but it ran. I haven't actually ran it since though, and now that I've tried to run it, there must be some dependency that's changed because I can't get it working on any of my Raspberry Pis. So I've decided to change how it will work, at least for this video. My laptop will run the recognition part, and if it hears AC/DC, it'll call an endpoint which is running on the Raspberry Pi to turn on the LEDs. This will actually be more efficient because the recognition code runs quite slow on the Pi. I'll look into fixing it properly afterwards, so it'll all run in a single script for anyone who wants to use the code. It'll be linked below. I also have another project using the same recognition library, but after a quick Google, it looks like there's a couple of new libraries that do the same thing but more up to date. So be sure to subscribe to see that one. Anyway, for now, I haven't actually implemented the new way of doing things, but I'm just going to leave it recording and let's try and get it going. And if it doesn't work, this will be a pretty pointless video. Oh, it's running. Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, it's running, but I've stopped it because before I run it properly with the music, I'm going to show exactly what's going on. Over here on the left, I'm connected to my Raspberry Pi, which is connected to the LEDs, and I'm just running this simple Flask app, which has one endpoint available, and all it does is turn on the LEDs. And then over here on the right is my local machine, and it's running the recognition code. So when I run the recognizer function, it'll listen to the music, and if it has high enough confidence that it's an AC/DC song, it'll call that endpoint. So now, to try it with music, I've prepared some copyright-free versions of the songs that I'm actually playing here, but I can't play on YouTube unless AC/DC gave me special permission, which I don't think they're going to be watching this. But anyway, enjoy my versions. So you can see it got You Shook Me All Night Long, and it looks pretty cool to me. Let's try another one. Alright, I'm gonna stop there before it breaks again. And that's it, it works. And I did add a manual override, so I don't always have to have AC/DC playing to light up my video backgrounds. If you enjoyed this video, I recommend checking out my other projects, builds, music, and I suggest using all of the other YouTube buttons: subscribe, like, bell, share, to be sure to share my teachings with the rest of the world. I don't like annoying people with all the like and share stuff, but if you like my videos, anything you can do to help would be much appreciated. To give you an idea of how much work and how much time goes into each video, the dog at the start of the video is the same as the dog at the end of the video, almost a year apart. And now I have a Patreon, so if you want to check that out, it's linked below. Lastly, thanks to our sponsor of the day, and by sponsor I mean my brother, for lending me this lovely Gibson SG for the video that I don't know how to play. Are these supposed to come off? Well, I'll leave you in the hands of someone who can actually play it.